Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Morning Devo with Bo-O. 8:38 right now. Listening to some cool tunes and getting ready to get into the devotion today. We're going to be in Ecclesiastes chapter 7. And this is the Morning Devo with Bo-O. Bo Wallett's my name, Ouellettee. You can check it out on YouTube. Check out all the archives on my YouTube channel. Just going through the Bible in a real simple way, but hopefully one that we get to pull out some good gems, and you get to kind of go on in your day with some good thoughts in your mind, which is really good. Good thing, good way to start the day is just to kind of break open the Word a little bit. Now, I wasn't raised around the Bible or church culture at all, so it really became new to me, in my very late teenage years and into my 20s. And it certainly altered so much of the way I think. And it's funny, when we grow up, we tend to think a lot like our parents, we kind of realize that. And I still have so many hang-ups, I don't know about you, from, my mom and dad. I still think, especially my dad, I still have a lot of existential thoughts. And that's really relevant to where we're at in Ecclesiastes, because Ecclesiastes is one of those very existential books. Is there meaning? What's the meaning of life? I don't see any meaning, really. I don't see any purpose. I don't see any really consistency. It seems like this happens, and then the next minute it seems like that happens. What's the point of everything anyway? And so I really got a lot of that hang up that we see in this book from my old man. A lot of maybe pondering and questioning and just contemplating, life. And so Ecclesiastes is a cool book. We get to read about Solomon, one of the most wisest, if not the most wisest person ever to walk the planet. Not only was he wise, but he's a very rich man. And he was in a sense, a popular guy. People came from all over the world just to see this guy. I mean, he was super famous. And so when we think of famous people today, we think of them, having a following and being very, popular, with the person, people. Just common people. And we kind of look up to the people like that are famous. Well, Solomon would have been one of those people that we all looked up to. But yet we see that in his heart, there was a lot of wrangling over issues, right? You would think that the most wisest person would really be on solid footing with the Lord, with his God Yahweh. I mean, his dad was King David, a guy after God's own heart, a guy who wrote most of the Psalms, a guy who really, really wanted to stick to, the Torah, the temple worship and everything of Yahweh. But Solomon seems to have gotten away from a lot of this. And he's been very influenced by his different philosophers of his day, and maybe of the ancient world as well. Philosophy tends to do that to us. It can help us see some things clearly, but it can also muddy the waters quite a bit. And it's interesting, Jesus didn't come and just give a bunch of philosophy lessons, did he? No, Jesus, when he came, he really came to show the truth of the Torah and our need for salvation because of what the law of Moses said. And so no big philosophy lessons from Jesus, right? Instead, he shared the good news that he has come to save that which was lost. And Solomon certainly proves that he's lost and we're lost. We need a savior. So chapter 7 says, a good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume. By the way, Paula, how you doing? Mike, good morning, brother. Hope you're doing good and enjoy maybe hitting this, golf a little bit, doing the things you enjoy to do. I know it's hot out there nowadays, but hey, good morning to everybody. And so let's get into it. Good name, it says, is a good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume. A good reputation. Boy, that does get us a long way, right? But our reputation could be damaged pretty easy as well. Sometimes I fear that. I don't know about you, but sometimes I could have a fear of losing a good reputation. Fear of, gosh, what if people really know me? Like, what then? You can get those kind of fears in your heart. Sometimes we're trying to uphold our reputation so much. We're trying to strive to have a good reputation so much that we really don't let people in to our lives as well. We can do that. But on the whole, as a proverb, right? A word of wisdom, hey, good reputation is more valuable than costly perfume. It certainly will help you in your life. And the day you die is better than the day you are born. Interesting. The day you die is better than the day you are born. Now, why is this? He says, after all, it's better to spend time at funerals than at parties. After all, everyone dies, so the living should take this to heart. So he has come to this conclusion many times that everybody dies. And so we should all take that to heart, which we do. And I think a lot of our world is trying to avoid that truth. And that's why we do what we do in a lot of ways. But it's an interesting proverb here. And the day you die is better than the day you are born. It's kind of a sad one in a way. For the Christian, certainly the day you die is a great day. The day we die to ourselves, the way we die to living for ourselves, the day of us being in authority of everything, the day we finally say, Christ, you in me is the hope of glory, right? As it says in Colossians 1:27. That's certainly a good day. Practically speaking, the day you're born is a day of celebration. Usually people, when they're born, there's a party that's thrown. But notice Solomon is so thinking in another way. He's like, hey, it's better to, spend time at funerals than at parties. Hey, it's better to, remember you're going to die, so you better get used to it. So you better start spending time at funerals and just kind of get into that mode and be ready. It sounds very existential, like, freedom comes through realizing that you're nothing. One of those kind of statements, that you read in a interesting existential book, at, one of the bookstores that you pull out and you go, wow, that's so deep. Like, yeah, freedom is finally realizing that I'm zilcho, that I'm just, an amoeba and gonna die, Man, Solomon's pretty bummed. Hey, have you ever hung out with someone who just tends to be this way? Tends to be kind of heavy like this. Like, woo, that's tough, man, right? And you're trying to cheer him up. Hey, brother. Hey, man. Have you ever done that before? And they're still stuck in that kind of, mode of just being super bummed. Paula says she's in the healing mode, which is good. And we're glad Paul is doing good and healing up. Well, Solomon was kind of in definitely a more pessimistic mode, kind of the reality mode, right? What's the point of really enjoying and, being so happy all the time and celebrating the birth when really just the person who's born is going to die? So you might as well get used to it and be mentally ready. Very interesting. It says, sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. So Solomon's obviously saying a lot of the opposites of what we normally think, right? You want, laughter, happiness. Hey, let's move away from that. Really, sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. Oh, hey, I noticed that sadness tends to do something to us. Now, there's truth to that. right? Sometimes in the trial, we really learn a lot. Times of being hard pressed, we really can be challenged in ways to really trust in God. I'm not sure if Solomon's so much thinking that way, as much as he's just in such a mode, if you will. He's that brother, he's that dude who's always by you, that you grow up with. I have one who's still in my life, but super sarcastic. Everything you think, you say, oh, this is so cool, he's got a Solomon quote for you. It's one of those Ecclesiastes existential quotes of like, oh yeah, this is only cool if you da-da-da-da-da-da, and you kind of look at him like kind of weird, because it seems so off cuff, so opposite of what seems to be. It seems natural to be more into laughter and, more joking and being jovial than being someone who's more melancholy. But he says, well, there's something we can learn in being melancholy. Well, there's something you can learn in being laughter too, and having fun. There's something you can learn there too. But Solomon's very, very in his mode, so to speak. And so sorrow is better than laughter, for sadness has a refining influence on us. Sure, got it. I don't think anybody doubts that, the power of sorrow and what it can do, how it can move us. Better is to be criticized by a wise person than to be praised by a fool. That's a cool proverb. Better to be criticized by a wise person. So someone who's wise, than to be praised by a fool. Hey, look at who's around you, who's puffing you up, who's giving you accolades. Are you searching for those things? Or do you seek them sometimes when, man, maybe we shouldn't be seeking them from those people? So Solomon gives that great proverb, right? Better to be criticized by a wise person. Hey, maybe it's better to have a wise person just correct you, just rebuke you. And it's in order to do that, by the way, I need to have a submissive heart. And that can be tough, right? Sometimes submissiveness is very difficult, right? I don't want to be criticized by a wise person. Sometimes I'd rather be just praised by, say, my peers, that kind of thing. And so Solomon observes that there is something to listening to someone who's wise, even if they are criticizing you. Again, it's something that kind of goes against the grain of us in a lot of ways, right? A lot of us would rather be praised by the fool than to be criticized by the wise. A lot of us would rather have laughter than sorrow. A lot of us would rather have parties about someone being born than to actually hang out and think about death all day. But Solomon's, he's in that mode, right? He's in that place of where he starts kind of looking at things and pondering things and, life under the sun. A fool's laughter is quickly gone like thorns crackling in a fire. This is also meaningless, right? Hey, someone laughs, but like the crackling of thorn, a crackling in a fire, it's gone. It's meaningless. What's the point? Extortion turns wise people into fools, and bribes corrupt the heart. Even people that are wise, that are in wise positions, places of power, they get corrupted, right? And then it says, finishing is better than starting. Patience is better than pride. So a bunch of these little sayings. Finishing is better than starting. That's weird. How can you finish if you don't what? Start. You got to start. But he says finishing is better than starting. And then he says practice is better than, our patience is better than pride. Being long-suffering. Being patient is better than being a person who is a prideful person. Humility is better than pride. The humble person. And so he gives these out. He makes us think. He makes us kind of balance maybe our lives a little bit by going, maybe I'm way over here on this side. Maybe I got to come over here and look at it from this side too, you know, and take a peek over at this angle and go, man, that's right. You know, it's kind of neat because sometimes you'll run into people, right? And I love these sections because it's not, you know, not everybody's the same. Some people are over here and some people are over there, and how they kind of are their temperament and the way they kind of are wired. And some people see things through, you know, this place, and some people see things through this place. Different places. You know, some people are much more sorrowful in their temperament. Some people are much more optimistic, happy, you know, positive in their presence. Other people, you know, it's other things. And Solomon certainly makes us have to think. So he says, finishing is better than starting. I think there's a part of that that's true too, you know, in the sense of, finishing, it's how you finish, kind of, you know, that idea. You know, you want to finish well, right? You might have started, and sure, you started, but, you know, let's finish good kind of idea. But that one of humility better than pride, boy, that's a big one too. It says, don't control your temper, for anger labels you a fool. So true, right? Our anger can get out of control. That's not a good place. Don't long for the good old days. This is not wise. Hey, we've all done that. Oh, remember the good old days. Remember back then. Remember that. You know, Solomon goes, what's the point of that? You know, you're living on a memory, you know, a past memory. Who knows if you're even thinking about it right? Now, most of the time, I know when I look back on the past, a lot of times I don't think of it all in the exact right ways. I must say, my memory's not the greatest, and it probably doesn't see everything in its exact the way it was. So don't long for those days, right? Don't dwell on those days. Do I dwell on those days? Do I dwell on the past? Good question. Wisdom is even better when you have money. Both are a benefit as you go through life. Wow, benefit of, he observes something on this earth. It's good to have some money. You know, then you could sit and contemplate everything. You really don't have to go work too much, do you, Solomon? Because you're just sitting around contemplating life, writing a book, right? Right? Thinking existential thoughts, right? Thinking about even nihilism, even, you know, all these different philosophical ideas, you know, intertwined into your writing. Yeah, money can certainly help you do that. Sometimes a lot of us are so, you know, we don't have money, so you have to actually do stuff. You actually have to go to work. You actually have to be busy with work, different things. So you don't have so much time to just sit and read and ponder. It's nice, though, that if you have a lifestyle where, I mean, it's like a leisure lifestyle, where, yeah, you have maybe some work, but a lot of the stuff you can do even while you're working. You can read or things like that. That's pretty amazing. And Solomon observes that. He says, wisdom and money can get you almost anything, but only wisdom can save your life. Where do I put all my marbles? Is it in money? Hope not. Money has a benefit, and it certainly can help you in life, that's for sure. But it can't save your life, right? Ultimately, money's not going to get you into the kingdom of heaven. You know, there's an end to everybody, whether you're rich or you're poor. And he's already talked about that. Accept the way God does things. Who can straighten what he has made crooked? Enjoy prosperity while you can, but when hard times strike, realize that both come from God. Remember that nothing is certain in this life. Something that we want. Control. Man, boy, do we want control. And man, just giving up control can really be difficult. We want days to be predictable. We want things to be similar. You know, and when they're not, we can become very, very shaky, on shaky ground. And we kind of wonder, what's God doing? Is God around? You know, those kind of things. And Solomon gives us some good advice here. You know, things come from God. God knows what's going on. Do I trust that? Do I trust that God's leading me right where I'm at? You know, maybe I am uncomfortable. Maybe I'm in a place that I don't really want to be. But you know what? You know, God has me here. You know, and I have to remember that there is nothing that's certain on this planet. Things can always go to the right or to the left, right? So he says, I have seen everything in this meaningless life, including the death of good young people and the long life of wicked people. So before he said in the book, like, oh, you know, God blesses those people who have, you know, he brings them long life, and those that are wicked, he cuts short and takes their money and gives it to someone else. Now he observes that, guess what? Young people die, old people are young people that, he says, good young people die, and wicked old people just keep living. And so he sees that, oh man, you know, it's not always just the way you think it's going to be. It's not always just this cookie cutter thing. There is this uncertainty, right? How do I deal with uncertainty? How do I deal with the seeming injustice of the world? Where's my heart? You know, is it on Jesus's words? Let not your heart be what? Troubled. Wow. Fear not, I have overcome the world. You know, promises of Jesus, right? Do I look to that? I hope today that's what we're doing, is looking to the Lord, right? Because we see how, you know, heavy it can be if you just are pondering the uncertainties of this world. So don't be too good or too wise, Solomon observes. Why destroy yourself? Don't try to do either. Don't over-try. Don't overburden yourself, right? He gets at. What's the point? On the other hand, don't be too wicked either. Don't be a fool. Why die before your time? Pay attention to these instructions, for anyone who fears God will avoid both extremes. One person is stronger than 10 leading citizens of a town. Not a single person on earth is always good and never sins. So observances from Solomon, right? Man, don't overdo it. Don't over try to achieve this or that. Don't try to be too this way, a wise person. Don't try to be too much of a fool. Why exhaust yourself? It's just a heavy burden, And then he says, but to be one wise, strong person is better than 10 leading citizens of a town. It's great to have wisdom, right? So it sounds like he's saying just don't overburden yourself, which is interesting, because we tend to burden ourselves quite a bit. Maybe sometimes it's because we maybe aren't what we want to be or aren't where we want to be. So we put a burden on ourselves. I don't know if you've ever put a burden on yourself, but man, that can be real heavy and a hard thing to carry. That's why Jesus's words are always cool, right? Come to me who are heavy laden and I will give you rest. We find that way cool. Maybe today I could just work on, giving God my burdens. Not a single person on the earth is always good and never sins, right? That's true. He's observing it, right? He's looking at the world under the sun. And he goes, man, nobody's got it together. Nobody seems to have it all right. Wow. Don't eavesdrop on others. You may hear your servant curse you, for you know how often you yourself have cursed others. Man, when we hear how people talk, it's just usually a reflection of us. And, that's what everything is, by the way, right? Movies, it's all a reflection of human hearts. That's all everything is. So whatever we're watching, whatever we see, entertainment-wise, art-wise, it's a reflection of us, right? It shows us just who we are as human beings. It reveals something about us. And this is why Solomon comes to the conclusion that not any of us always do right, right? We have a lot of sin in our life. There's not anybody who's ever had it all, licked. How does that make me live today? Hopefully with a lot of compassion on people. I mean, I hope I'm having more compassion, because I realize the dire situation we're in. And I hope that's what these readings do, is they make you more of a person who goes, man, God, let me have more compassion on people. Give me a love for people. Knowing that we all, even the preacher, is a struggling individual. So I searched everywhere, determined to find wisdom and to understand the reason for things. That's what he's doing. Understanding the reason for things, trying to seek out things, contemplate stuff. I was determined to prove myself that wickedness is stupid and that foolishness is madness. So he's determined to prove something, right? Wickedness is stupid and that foolishness is madness. He's seeking it out. He's trying to prove something. I discovered that a seductive woman is a trap more bitter than death. Ooh, Solomon would know, right? A seductive woman is more bitter than death. Boy. Her passion is a snare, and her soft hands are chains. Those who are pleasing to God will escape her, but sinners will be caught in her snare. Ooh, was Solomon caught in her snare? Sure was, right? So I guess Solomon wasn't too pleasing to God, right? And maybe neither am I either. Maybe that's why I need saving. That's right. Maybe that's why we need a Savior, why we need Jesus so bad, right? Because we've fallen into the temptations and the consequences of those temptations, the bitterness. We've drunk from that bitter well, so to speak. Passions have gotten the best of us. And Jesus now, he was well-pleasing, right? This is my beloved Son in whom I am well pleased. Yeah, isn't that cool? The Father says that about the Son. So the Son, Jesus, man, he's well-pleasing in the Father's eyes, and he could say no. Pretty awesome. And he is the one individual that lived a righteous life, and that is amazing. And he gives you that free, by the way. This based off of course, his death and resurrection. And this is my conclusion, says the teacher. I discovered that after looking at the matter from every possible angle, contemplating, thinking through things. Oh man, what is going on in this world? People just get up, go to work, come back home, put on TV, go to bed, get up, go work out, go to the thing, go work, same old thing. What's the point? This one person lives in the wash, another person lives in a high hill mansion. What's the difference? Right? Some person does this, one person does that. You see what Solomon, he's just looking at, what's the meaning of it all? What's the point of all this? It seems like a bunch of madness, right? Life under the sun. Life without that personal God who's involved. It says, though I have searched repeatedly, I've not found what I was looking for. Hence, you too, the song, still haven't found what I'm looking for. Only 1 out of 1,000 men in virtuous 1,000 men is virtuous, but not one woman. But I did find this. God created people to be virtuous, but they have each turned to follow their own downward path. Woo! So Solomon observes that God has made us to desire virtue, to move towards the better. But we tend to always move away. We tend to go down a downward path. We struggle. We battle. We claw our way to be virtuous. We're all trying to do that, but we're all cracked. We all have these chinks in the armor, so to speak. And Solomon observes this. His knock on women in this section is not too much worse than the knock on men. Seems like he lumps us all into this category of just not being able to do it. He himself included. He certainly had a lot of personal relationships with women, And, it certainly has made him maybe just bitter, and maybe it sorrowed his own heart, of course, right? How much he deviated from the Torah. And certainly, we've all, I think, have maybe done this in our life, or we've definitely seen people who've done this in their life where they start moving away from God and doing what God says with joy. And the more they do, they get into this very cynical way of looking at things. They see the results of things, and now they become bitter, right? It's almost like they're drinking bitter water, I don't want to do that, I want to try to live a simple life, just trusting in God daily. And so there's some good things in the chapter. A lot of opposites of what you think. Solomon tends to pull the pendulum a little different, than what we think, in a lot of ways. And it's good to read that, because I think it's good to get that different perspective. I think also he's just really bitter. He's just really cynical. And we see that a life, sometimes when you live a hard life, it really affects you in so many ways. I like how he talked a little bit about that overstriving mentality too. Sometimes we could try to overdo, we overstrive, overwork. And he seems to be saying, hey, don't try to have a balance in your life. Sometimes you can get hyper into something where you start doing it. Now you're doing it all the time, right? Instead of maybe pumping on the brakes a little bit and going, hey, yeah, I enjoy doing that, but maybe I do have to have a balance in my life. And I like how he kind of mentions that idea there. He always points us to wisdom, to seek wisdom out, that wisdom seems to be the better thing than anything. The idea of fearing God is always in his writings, right? The idea of, man, we really should have a fear of the Lord. But certainly a lot of bitter water that is drunk by this guy. God help us to obey you today, right? So interesting chapter for sure, and wild. This is Solomon. Unreal, right? Wisest man. What a letter. What a writing. So you guys take care. I'm going to read it again today too, and just kind of ponder a little more of what Solomon's talking about. You guys take care. Bye-bye.